Evidently, Thomas Massie, who we all know is kind of a hero to me and to a lot of others, has been doing some incredible work. And that also includes, again, when you don't have anything to lose, we're going to talk about what Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Tucker Carlson are doing on Monday when Jen is here. The pros and the cons of what they're attempting to do. It was announced earlier today that the intention of Massie, Marjorie, and Tucker is either to form some type of an offshoot of the GOP, their own party, or their own movement within the GOP, kind of like what the DSA is doing within the Democratic Party right now. Time will tell. It turns out that with the exception of Massie, 2 weeks ago, the House passed a bill that greenlit the transfer of Spanish territory to Morocco. Every Republican except Massie voted for it. The language within this story is as follows. The committee notes that the Spanish-administered cities of Ceuta and Melilla, I believe that's how you pronounce it, are located in Moroccan territory and remain the subject of Morocco's long-standing claim. And the votes should come as no surprise. We're along party lines. The bill passed. And here we are. Now, many of you have probably seen this video. You could call it an invasion if you want. But we understand why this roughshod is happening. We understand why these people are surging to the border. It's not pretty. And there is reason to believe that this was a setup from the beginning. Now, when you see this many people showing up, surging to the border, and remember, this particular place, Ceuta in particular, is part of North Africa. It is not part of the Spanish mainland, but this is considered a Spanish territory, and it has been for centuries. But now, all of a sudden, they want to surge migrants to the border, invade. As many as 50 to 60,000 were sent in the matter of hours. This was always a plan. And so they executed their plan. Now, it turns out that it hasn't exactly gone as they expected it to. And as our lovely Amy is pointing out so precisely, it totally happened organically. Nothing unique. Don't ask questions. And therein lies the rub. So we have an article, and again, there's a lot of different organizations out there that write. Considering what Al Jazeera just did with their journalists, Middle East Eye was already trending in the direction of what was my favorite outlet for news. It's now officially my favorite outlet for news, period. And so here we are. To the top, Ben, please. Spanish commentators accuse Israel and U.S. of involvement in Ceuta crisis. Obviously, you have the bill to prove it. Thank you, Congressman Massie. And for those who are wondering, just want to make sure that if anybody decides to look this up and wants to know exactly what the bill was, because that information is important. This is, let's see. Roll call on House resolution, the National Security, Department of State, and Related Programs Appropriations Act. I'm going to try filling that mouthful. But it's H.R. 8595, in case you were wondering. Some 60,000 people crossed into Ceuta from Morocco this week, including around 8,000 children. That's risky. All right, let's scroll down. Right there. Ben, could you make it a little bit bigger? That's good. I could do with that. That's fine. A Spanish minister has suggested Israel was stirring problems over 60,000 migrants crossing from Morocco into Spain's North African enclave of Ceuta. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, we've covered that dipshit before, posted on X on Friday, Spain, which never misses an opportunity to lecture Israel, has declared a state of emergency in Ceuta following the crisis over its immigration policy. Maybe before it continues lecturing us, it's time it explained to the world why it still maintains colonial enclaves in Africa. I don't know. Why do you maintain colonial enclaves all over the world, including Gaza and the West Bank? Remember, hypocrisy knows no bounds. Sharing Dannon's post, Spanish Transport Minister Oscar Puente remarked, well, it all seems to be becoming quite clear. This comes as numerous Spanish politicians and commentators have alleged that Israel and the U.S. have sought to cause trouble for Spain in retaliation for the Spanish government's opposition to the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran and Israel's war on Gaza. Let me also point out, in case you were wondering if there was another reason as to why this was happening, and you can scroll down, Ben. Do not think for a second that there was not extra motivation on the part of Israel and the U.S. as a payback for the embarrassment that Spain levied on Argentina and with it, Israel, during the World Cup. I know it can't be the only reason, but it's a reason. Gabriel Rufan, the parliamentary spokesperson for the Republican Left of Catalonia, a left-wing party, argued that the crisis served American and Israeli interests. Spanish journalist Jose Visner, meanwhile, shared a 2019 social media post by Yair Netanyahu, the son of Israel's prime minister, discussing alleged Israeli support for separatism in Ceuta. Prominent Spanish actor Javier Bardem shared a video accusing Israel of being behind the crossings. Former Portuguese minister and commentator Bruno Maisa said that whether or not the U.S. and Israel were involved before the fact, they were deeply involved and intensely active after the fact, especially trying to use it against the current Spanish government. Ceuta, a Spanish territory on Morocco's Mediterranean coast, in Melilla, another Spanish autonomous city on the country's northern coast, share the only land borders between the European Union and Africa. Scrolling, Ben. Some 60,000 people crossed into Ceuta from Morocco this week, including around 8,000 children, according to the Spanish government. Footage posted online showed people swimming into the enclave around the border barrier, with some wearing swimsuits and using flotation rings to make the dangerous journey. Again, where did they get that from? Diplomatic spats over migrant crossings. So France said it was increasing checks along its border with Spain, while Italy threatened to suspend Spain from the EU's internal open border scheme. Well, they've already done that. But on Saturday, Spain said most migrants, around 48,000, had already returned to Morocco, ushered by Spanish soldiers. Videos online showed migrants hiding in tunnels and walking around on the streets of Ceuta. At least 67 people are believed to have died while attempting to reach the enclave. It is unclear what prompted the wave of attempted crossings, but there have been previously been similar incidents. Interesting. In May of 21, 8,000 Moroccans entered the enclave amid a diplomatic dispute between Spain and Morocco over Western Sahara. At the time, Spain accused Morocco of using migrants as leverage, and a Moroccan minister said Morocco was justified in relaxing its border control as a response to the diplomatic dispute. Some commentators have accused Morocco of facilitating this week's crossings, pointing to the Moroccan government's anger at Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's recent visit to Algeria. That's the nation that borders Morocco. Spain's biggest gas supplier. Lorenzo Gabriele, a senior researcher at Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona, who researches migration in Ceuta, told the New York Times, it is impossible for nearly 50,000 people to cross the border between Morocco and Spain in a single day without Morocco having a hand in it, and the U.S. and Israel. Ceuta President Juan Jesus Vivas condemned the migration as a violation of Spain's territorial integrity. Morocco's ambassador to Spain, Karima Bayanic. We have always prioritized legal, orderly, and safe migration for all. She insisted the crossings have been against the wishes of the Moroccan government. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald called the situation a catastrophe and added, if it were not in office, our country will be invaded at levels that will make Spain look small time. Any opportunity to brag about himself, the braggadocious one, as he generally tends to be. There is no question in my mind that this was an attempt to try to, as I said, get back at the Spanish for winning the World Cup, for being vocal against the genocide, for also not supporting the war in Iran. Maybe some people just don't like war. Maybe some people don't actually want to die for a cause that makes no sense. And every day we get a little bit closer to completely breaking free of this Zionist catastrophe, because that's what it's been. It's been a catastrophe for everyone in this country and beyond, having to deal with this appendage that we call Israel. And it is going to be very interesting whether or not they attempt to do anything again, but this seems like a complete misfire.